podcast for the Season 25 Week 4 preview. I'm your host, Romulocks, and this show is a weekly podcast where we look at the results from the previous week, discuss the upcoming matches, and try and predict the winners and how that will impact the rest of the season. Joining me to discuss all that and more, I'm honored to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-host for this evening. First up, we have Mecca.
Howdy.
We have Splittah.
Let's get it, boys.
And we have The Gift.
Hello.
For more information on this Unified Skirmish League, including schedule, rosters, or how you can be a part of this league, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. So let's talk about Week 3 games. This was the opening to Bombs map, the first map it's going to be used on for this season, or first week rather. Also next week will be on Bombs map. So first game was Splittah defeating Darkslayers 101-72. Your MVP in that game was ESO. Mecca, take us away.
Yeah, this was the game that was 12 versus 12. Kind of hectic, but I think it was fun. I'm actually kind of surprised they wanted to go 12s, considering they have a roster that could maybe contend with us. I'm surprised they didn't try to maybe beat us there, but I mean, I'm glad they went 12s because I thought it was really fun. There's always a chance when you're playing 12s, it kind of devolves into pub and you can lose, so maybe that's the thought. That they have a better angle, or maybe it was just about playtime, but we're gladly obliged and got, basically everybody who was signed online in, so it was a fun game for us.
So it sounds like Darkslayers was the one then that was pushing for the 12s, I guess, then?
Yeah, they asked some cap chat before we did.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it was the other way around, but yeah, it was kind of chaos. That whole match. We thought in the beginning like that after the first battle that it might have been like a blowout match for Splittah, but I mean in the end it wasn't. It was relatively close throughout sort of close, I guess you would say. And then we kind of were also thinking, at least most of spec, including myself, was thinking that that amount of players that were playing, this whole thing is kind of crazy. The amount of kills that was garnered from that game, and how it potentially could affect, seedings, playoffs, etc. But I don't think it'll be a big deal either way. But in the end, it was an interesting match, yeah, I don't think 12s is really good for either team. I mean, I don't think it's easy to lead. I don't think it's easy to structure anything, and I don't think anyone could take away anything out of that match either. But overall, it was, I guess, entertaining to watch.
Yeah, 12s is pretty troll, I think. I think it definitely devolves into pub very quickly, but it was a pretty competitive match. It was back and forth. Stats aren't like out of whack by any means, so that's not an issue at all. So yeah, pretty competitive. Splittah had the better players, and it showed in the end, basically. Chompy had a really good game, so that's great for him to finally be able to shut me up about him. Yosh struggled, I thought, pretty hard in this one, but again, it's his first game of the season too. I still think medics is kind of an issue for Splittah, but I think they'll figure it out by the end of the season. So yeah, pretty good competitive match.
Yeah, obviously the 12v12 was kind of historic, kind of unusual. Hadn't seen a lot of that. It was interesting to upgrade to 3 medics because you kind of had 3 independent kind of squads moving out there, and it broke into the way we devolved. It was actually 3 squads running different angles, and so it's kind of it just kind of broadened the field and made it kind of a big team battle version of Halo or something like that, which was kind of cool actually. It was as chaotic as we initially thought going in. But the question that Mecca asked is the question we were all left with. Why did DS do this? And I wonder if they thought that in the length of the roster that they might have had a better chance in a 12v12 than an 8v8. I don't know. It'd be interesting to get King's perspective on that. I think there's arguments to be made either way. But I do think they had a legitimate shot, particularly the way we've been playing in the last couple of weeks. I think they had a shot at taking us, and I would have wanted personally to see them take that shot. I think it makes for more drama. Where the 12v12 devolved, we were definitely more organized overall than their 12-man team. And I think that showed. I don't think it was that close. I think we left them into the game towards the end. We kind of just fell off at the end. I don't know. We just weren't being as diligent. We were kind of just running at them at a certain point. But it was a good game. I definitely think King and Fausto both played well. Fausto stepping in, it's like he's been there all season. I mean, honestly, this is one of the best weeks I've seen from him in a long time. He played well in both games. Phony also played really well. Just wanted to mention that for him. Iso is the god of this season. He went 16-5 in this game. I'm going to talk about how he went 31-3 in the next game. Combined 47 kills for the weekend. He has 71 kills on the season right now. Iso is having a good season. We'll say that. Iron stepping in as Ripper played really well, and yeah, Mecca and Chompy. This was a good game for Chompy that he needed as an ego builder, and I think it was a good game for him overall. So, yeah, Sparta versus DS, interesting game. Definitely one for the history books. Let's talk about the other side of that coin, which was Sparta versus Talking Smack Sunday.
Yeah, not a lot to say about this one. They did try a few things. I'll give them credit for that. They tried a weed play, but then we pulled away, called the camp timer, and then we just kind of destroyed them there. They tried a couple North plays, but it's just so weird seeing them play. They just play so separate from each other. It's like just a bunch of individual players playing and not a team. Like you'll see half the team fall, half the team push. So I think it just comes down to a strong leadership voice on that team. Not a lot of bright spots. MTR went 9-14. Got a couple. I think he killed me 2 or 3 times with mortar. Smack and Boog both did a good job getting at least 7, and then pretty evenly distributed kills on Sparta, except for Iso going 31-3, hitting about 31 last bullets on his LMG clip. Always good. But other than that, yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this game.
Yeah, it's not really much. I'd say MTR, yeah, definitely popped off a little bit. I mean, maybe over the whole weekend actually. So a lot of his mortars were hitting. There was chatter about how what the percentages were. Was it 1 for 20, 1 for 30? But either way, it was definitively more. He was probably like the most effective person, I would say, that was coming from Talking Smack Sunday throughout both games. And this game in particular, yeah, he so definitely went off.
Yeah, same thing. Iso absolutely popped off, getting those last hits in there. So that was great for fantasy owners if you had him. But yeah, not much more to say.
I mean, TSS tried in the beginning, as Mecca pointed out, like the weed play and then the North building play right after it. They tried to put something together, and then when it didn't go their way, it kind of fell into craziness after that. I really like the way they held the structure at the beginning. At least it shows a coherent plan. MTR3 did have a good game. I think the first game of the 2 was the better for MTR3. He absolutely had Mecca's number, that's for sure. Smack and Backs, I think both of those guys also played okay, but the team overall still had a lot to work on. Interesting that Universal Soldier probably had one of his worst weeks in seasons at this point. I want to know what was going on there, but I kind of expected more from Uni in terms of just the individual duels. He had a couple moments that were good, but overall I thought this was kind of a step back for him. But yeah, not a lot to say other than what these guys have said. Next up, let's talk about Birds defeating Talking Smack Sunday, 119-37. Your MVP in that game was Taco. If I didn't get the score of the last game, my apologies. That's 99-29. MVP was Iron in that game. So let's talk about the Birds game, though.
Yeah, same thing. Not much to say. MTR hit a few mortars on. Backs had a couple of good rundown kills. Going 9-13. Had played pretty well as Ripper at the end. Had a couple good streams. Overall, though, just a really bad week for TSS. It does suck to see people like G Unit and Jim and Uni on these teams, because I think talent-wise, if there were 6 squads, they could be on that 5th squad and not on the bottom. But because we only have 5 squads this season, they're kind of stuck down there with the roster constraints and everything. So, I mean, I wouldn't put too much into them going 1-16, 2-15. I think they would play better on better squads, and I hope to see them get some play time at a better squad next season, so they can actually get back into the game, or in Jim's case, learn the game a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, yeah, I think Gene is actually primarily a med class. It would be nice to see a kind of a change there. Maybe Gene and that dude change roles. But overall, this was kind of similar to the other game. A really rough weekend for them, definitely. I do think the kill distribution for birds was way better. And they kind of definitely, yeah, they definitely were way more aggressive than any other team against them. Not saying that anybody wasn't aggressive versus them, but obviously the kill show. Either way, overall, good match.
So in our match, they actually like set up a couple ambushes.
Yep,
You can see them
Oh
like
God.
trying to set up plays,
absolutely.
which is good, but they can only they put spurts of like 3 minutes together and then it kind of falls apart
Hmm.
after that. So they're definitely like Smack Rock is definitely trying. It's just this talent gap is so immense compared to the other squads. So it's gonna be a long season for them. I appreciate them trying to improve and get better. It is what it is at this point. It's frustrating for them, but you could see them trying, which is great news for the rest of the league. Slob had a fantastic game, leeching all our kills, so he got MVP.
Mhm.
Rio decided that he was going to sub out, and then he left immediately. He was 10-3, but didn't get his stats recorded. But yeah, otherwise, it is what it is.
Exactly what Giff said. You could see I mean, watching both games back to back, MTR had the better game in chaos, but he was really the only person who was doing anything in that first game. The second game, I think Talking Smack Sunday, you could see them try to put something together. The problem was Birds is just really good. So, they were matching up. They were trying ambushes. They were trying to spread out and stabilize. I saw all those things. They just didn't do it very well. It was a really rough draw for TSS this weekend to have Sparta and Birds back to back. But I did see them trying to put it together, and I appreciated that. Medics were kind of a huge liability, getting picked off real early. There was an inability entirely for TSS to focus on any one flank. They were always breaking down into like 1v1 fights with a Birds player, and against Birds in particular, that's insanity. You can't do that. There's not, I mean, to be rude, there's not a single player on Birds' lineup who is, that you have a better player on yours, except for maybe Backs on a good day. And that, like, that's what I'm saying. You can't do that. You got to focus on taking on one side or the other and trying to get a good ambush and kill some people early, take out two, and then push an 8v6. That's how you play well. And I think there were too many times where they tried to stabilize and just keep it there. Yeah, you can't do that. But overall, I like the improvement from TSS. I encourage you guys to keep working on it week by week. The only way you get better is to keep working on it. So let's go to our final game. That is Jersey Boys versus Dark Slayers. Jersey Boys defeated Dark Slayers in that game 72-47. Your MVP was Kevin, and this was kind of the game of the week.
This game was very frustrating for me because I think Fausto and Ender and Typhoon all played really well. And I think that, and there's going to be a question about this later, this kind of about this game later too. But Burl didn't really play well to the end. Phony kind of had an off game, and Chuck was just playing Ranger. But their meds were terrible. I think if you sub in if you sub in, I don't even know who you would sub in on their team, but like even switching Phony to med maybe, because Dead was like in the back the whole time. Like Fausto or Ender would push in. I talked about it on the broadcast as well. Fausto and Ender would push in, and the med should be behind them, but the med is either A, nowhere to be found, or B, healing Chuck in the back while Chuck spams snipes. And if they were with them, I really think this game could have gone a lot closer. I don't know if Darkslayers wins, but this was not a 30 kill game to me, or 25, whatever it ended up being. I know Jersey Boys pulled away in the end, but at one point this game was super close. And there was this, Chumpy says X5 med. X5 should have been med in this game, that's true. But this game could have been a lot closer if their meds didn't play terribly, because Fossa was getting a couple good kills. Like I said, Typhoon and Ender too were getting some really good kills, getting really good positioning, and then their meds were nowhere to be found. And I think for Jersey Boys, they played well. They took advantage of that. They saw that the meds were way in the back, and they focused them down. And eventually, it was just a battle of attrition. And those 3-4 kill swings stack up, and you end up having a 25 kill gap. But I don't really think it was that if the meds get switched out. So I think Darkslayers has some to build on, but they have some decisions to make when it comes to medics. I don't think they'll bench Metal because he's part of the actual CTF Darkslayers crew. But I mean, if they want to win, there's a pathway for them to be more competitive.
I feel like this game was probably their best game that I've seen out
Agreed.
of Darkslayers. And yeah, definitively Foster made a huge impact. I mean, when he came back, they got better, no doubt about it. Granted, there was that weakness in the med department that game, but overall, I thought they played overall really well. Um, I thought it was, yeah, I definitely thought it was closer than, the overall scoreboard shows. And it kind of similar to how it seems like for Dark Slayers. A lot of their matches, you look at the end score, versus some of the playoff teams that, they lose by 20 or 30 or et cetera kills. And then you're like, okay, but, was it really that? They're really close to getting it, like, defeating any of the top three, kind of like what we expected. But it shows like they're kind of getting better as well throughout the season. Foster again being present, I do see definitively them just beating somebody in the top three. But yeah, well played by Foster. He was ranking throughout the whole match, definitively like the player of the game. Maybe for just like the entire game up until the midway point where Kevin just absolutely took over. I mean, granted, Kevin, I felt like his mortars were on point from the beginning of the game. Additional to that, yeah, I do think that Fasto, Typhoon, Ender, those three specifically played fantastic on their side. On our side, I think that Kev, Leo, even Ghost Bomber, yeah, everyone put in work there. And yeah, we kind of got us, Kevin specifically got us to get this W here.
Yeah, just piggybacking on the Fausto, Typhoon, Ender, those three played very well. Their deaths are a little high, but that tributes to those three being aggressive and fighting while the rest are just kind of dying behind them. So that's really frustrating. Another thing too about being a new squad is these other squads have played together for so many seasons in a row. Their chemistry is all there. It's very hard to just compile a group of new people and have them show out. It's very difficult. And you can see as the weeks start progressing that this squad is getting better. Again, it's just really frustrating to play squads that have played for seasons as is. Fosto being inactive for the entire season and showing up and playing that well surprised me. And again, Typhoon and Ender I thought played very well too. So props to them. Uh, Kevin playing Grenader should not work on Bomb's map, but he had a fantastic game, so props to him. I last week I thought SV. I mentioned that I thought he would pop off, and he kind of had a pedestrian game, but it is what it is. Good showing by Jersey boys again, and another win.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I think that we were talking about it earlier. Mecca was talking about it, and I want to bring it up again. That I think if Darkslayers had taken the first game more seriously, it would have bled into and affected the second game. I think Fausto coming back, I think these guys trying to get into form, if they had played at 8v8 and played it hard in the first game, I think that would have mattered a lot in this game. And Fausto would have walked into this game even better than he was, which was great. He came, he went 9-8 on this game, and that does not tell the impact. When you see the video, you'll understand the impact he had on this game was way bigger than that. Fausto's portion. His team he needed his team with him a couple of times because he was doing everything. But I would want to compliment as well Typhoon. I agree he had a great game, kind of trailed off at the end, but the beginning of the game, he was on point. Ender, I think he had moments of good, moments of bad. I think we've seen better individual performances from Ender in the previous 2 weeks than we did in this one, in just on an individual level. But I'd really like to see them all clicking together at the same time. Two of the questions you guys brought up with them were like, Phony, I don't think he had a great game. He had a much better first game than a second game. I'm not sure what to make of that or whether or not he needs to play medic. That's an interesting question there, too. But Chuck, we were talking about the broadcast. I wonder if Chuck should play Marine just because his aim is, or LMG for that matter, because his aim is so accurate. It is so accurate. I want him shooting constantly, not one bullet every 4 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it is. And he's more shooting like one every 8. I want a constant, some streaming Marine or LMG from him because he's really good at hitting where he wants to hit. And I think it would be an overwhelming kind of a team shooting, particularly if you've got Typhoon and Ender on either side of that. I think he becomes a more dominant player. And you're right, though. Chuck is also in the back. I think that medic is it just they haven't figured it out yet in terms of the medic being on attack versus in the back. I wonder if the medic being with him didn't attract the bullets from the beginning. But I think they just have to have some better performance from some of the guys on the bottom of the roster there. The medics you've talked about, we kind of already harped about. That was not a good game for their medics. And I don't know if you switch Phony there or not. I don't know, but you got to have a better performance over the course of the game. On the other side, everybody's kind of mentioned it. Kevin had an outstanding game. Leak was great. Splittah, I thought you were very fine. You were very fine in that game. It was a very good game overall. Pister actually, I thought it was one of his weaker performances individually. I'm sure he led your game, so you guys did fine overall. But it's a scary thing when Pister is performing individually and the team is performing because he's responsible in some degree for both. So kudos to Jersey Boys. It was a lot closer game than the final score leads you to believe, but only in the last 5 minutes did it turn into that. But Darkslayers always had a chance to be in this. They should hold their heads high and march into next week with that thought. They, as somebody earlier said, they are capable of winning these games. It's just a matter of early battles going their way and good choices on switching flanks and on retreating. They're really close to getting it all clicking, and as Giff said, that takes time. So let's move on now and talk about week 4 games coming up. This is the second round on Bomb's map. 9:30 p.m. Eastern, kicking it off this Sunday will be Splittah versus Jersey Boys. The repeat that we've been talking about. I know Mecca and I talked it up a little bit on the broadcast. What say you now, Mecca?
This is going to be an interesting game, partly because of our own fault, but Sparta's getting absolutely railed on Bomb's map. We're going to have 3 matches on Bomb's map, and all 3 are going to be from Titan, which is just brutal. So I think Jersey Boys probably takes this, especially if Sov comes in and plays. I know that he'll probably be, I don't know if he'll be leading, and probably, I'm assuming he's going to let Pister lead and he's just going to kill. So if Sov plays, I think they're going to take it. I think even if he doesn't, they might take it, just because fighting from Titan on Bomb's map is just not fun. It's possible to do it, it's just not fun, especially when Kevin Grenader, they can just kind of hold that south area. And it's going to be super hard to push Weed or that south area from the Titan side with him nading and hitting his mortars. And then, Pister's they've been playing on this map for 3 weeks now, almost a month now. Pretty active. I think Sparta's SB once, maybe. So that has a lot to do with it as well. Hopefully we can get our med situations figured out. I think we probably do, because I think Iron's going to start showing up more, so that'll obviously be a boost to us. So I still think that there's a chance that we win, because I think on paper we're still pretty close as far as skill level goes. But I'm probably going to give this one to Jersey Boys, just because of that south factor with the Kevin Nader and the activity levels.
Yeah, I would say that we would take it. Jersey Boys, that is. I don't think that Sov is going to play for this match, but yeah, I think because of the side factor, the fact that we have a momentum going, that we should take this match.
So seeing Sov join, I know he shows and watches matches every Sunday. I think I've seen him in spec almost every Sunday, but I'm not sure if he is actually going to play, if he's going to actually show up and play for them. So that'll be, we'll see about that. I think lineup wise, if Iron starts getting more active, that's a massive boost to Splittah. I still think Splittah Marines are a little better than Jersey Boy Marines, and then on an open map like this too, I kind of like Splittah. But again, the Sov factor is it's undetermined. We don't know. Is he going to is Pister going to be a bitch and just hand over the keys to Sov because Sov's the best leader in the game? I don't know, because it's his squad, right? It's gonna be such a close match. I think it's gonna be fun to watch. I think Jersey Boys will win. It's close. I think it'll be single digits. I think it'll be a really close match.
Well, if that game, man, it's gonna be a hell of a weekend for Jersey Boys and for Splittah. and for Birds for that matter. We're going to see a lot of different games here. Whether or not Saab plays or not, it's going to be very exciting. Um, I I don't know about the rematch. I've always thought that Sparta had the advantage in a game versus Jersey Boys overall, but it didn't play out that way. That's why we play the games, and it kind of depends on how a team starts. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but with the Birds game, I think that's the same thing as well. Jersey Boys have just outperformed what people thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season consistently, and it's not the same players week to week. It's Leak, it's Kevin, it's Pister going off. It's the Mountain. It's whether or not Havoc is going to have one of the greatest games ever at Medic. You have so much potential over there, and it seems like every weekend you guys find a way to get it done. And there's something to be said for that. Adding Sav to that does not hurt at all, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I'm going to go out and say I think Sparta takes this. I think it's something like 50-40, pretty close. But I think Sparta wins this first one. And now let's go ahead and talk about the next one too. Jersey Boys versus Birds. Just tell me which one you think is more the match of the week potential, and launch into it, Mecca.
TG, who has home on this one? Do you know?
We're home.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Birds then. I don't think Bomb's map is impossible to win from Titan. I just think that if you're Kali, all the fights can be south and Weed, and you basically get infinite respawn if you're fighting at Weed, right? Like as soon as you die, somebody's already got the angle back, so you can't push their base. Whereas if you're pushing from Kali to Titan, if you kill them, you can just push up the road and just escape, and you can be fine. But and your respawn basically never comes. So I think that's why I think it's a slight advantage on Kali on this map. So I think I'm going to give this one to Birds. I think Birds has a really good roster. If they can show everybody they need to show, I know obviously probably Nos is not going to show, but if they show everybody else, I think that they're a scary team. And I think this one was really close the first go around. And I mean, would anybody really be shocked if Birds and Jersey Boys split on the season? I don't think so. So I'm going to go with Birds on this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning to Birds right now just because of the side advantage. But I do think that also if, I guess how the scheduling goes, but yeah, if we beat Sparta first, then we probably would have the momentum to probably beat Birds next, would be my assessment there. But yeah, it's going to be definitely close either way.
Yeah, again, same thing. I think Birds is going to win by 10-ish. I like us in the open way more. I like our Marines way more than their Marines in the open, especially. I'll be curious to see how Pister plays this, especially being the north side. Is he going to try to stick in the rocks more and use Kevin effectively? Because 40s in the rocks are going to be way more effective than obviously 40s out in the open, right? So it'll be interesting to see. But I definitely like our Marines in the open way more than their Marines in the open. So I could see us winning by 7-10 in this match.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying there. It's interesting that the Sparta game will come first. I think that'll be a big deciding factor. If they win against Sparta, I think they'll go into the second game, and the loss is even more likely. If they lose against Sparta, then this is going to be one hell of a game to watch. So, I do think Birds, exactly what Gift said. The Marines, I think, are just a little bit higher caliber, particularly the group unit together. I think it's just stronger. It's just a question of maybe Jersey Boys picks the battle better, that where they want to have it better than that. And Kevin can go off. We've seen it. If he gets another double kill or something, that might change everything about this situation, and particularly the way I'm looking at it. But I'd be interested in one thing. I am interested in whether or not Pandy or Sabotage come in that last slot. I think if Sabo's there, I think you have to go with Sabo. I just think he's more consistent right now. And definitely for this game, I think he's more what you'd want. But maybe I'm wrong. That's just my outsider look at this right now. But yeah, I think on paper, Bird should win this game and another by 10 or 15 probably. So I'll probably go with what paper says on it right now. Let's move on to the 11 p.m. That would be Talking Smack Sunday versus Dark Slayers, the rematch.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going to be not very good for TSS. I just think TSS is their will is broken at this point. They've been beaten down too much. Another game on Bomb's map, and I think you'll see some interesting classes from Dark Slayers. It'd be cool to see, a bunch of Marines, but I think you see Tyrael playing Demo or Nader. Maybe they let X5 rip. Captain Axe has been playing late nights as on 4v4s, and he's been improving greatly. So I would like to see him play this game. I think he plays an okay medic, but I think he plays a pretty decent ripper. Same with X5. I'd like to see X5 rip if possible, or med, whatever they have. But I would like to see them spread some playtime out because I do think they have some guys off the bench that could be future USL starters if they played more. So it would be cool to see them get some playtime and kind of get the hook into them and see what they can do.
Let me ask this question, you Mecca, and maybe the rest of the guys can answer it in their own time. What do you, for Dark Slayers purposes, do you think it's a good thing to have a week, kind of a bye week against Talking Smack Sunday, considering where they are right now in the season? Does that help them get to where, to more competitive by the end of just the regular season play? Or do you think that it's going to maybe be a step back and that they fall back into bad patterns and start, thinking that they're good because they win by 60 or 70?
Well, I mean, this is the last week on Bomb's map, so I don't think it really matters. And I think it's good to get Fausto some more reps, considering he just came back, and then Fausto's chemistry with some guys. So maybe they start their starters the first 15 and then sub out. But I mean, I think personally, like Chompy said earlier, I would run X5 med in this game and see what he can get, because I think X5 is a pretty decent med. He played med for Suicide Squad. I don't know if he played in games, but in a couple SBs last season, and he did pretty well. And I think X5 being med, if he can give you anything better than what Metal and Abath gave you this weekend, I think that's a huge boon for this weekend. So if you can discover something like that, I think it's well worth it. So hopefully they play around with some lineups and tinker and get some chemistry and maybe solidify a med spot.
Yeah, I think it's going to help them, if anything, in terms of facing back squad this coming weekend. Also, you have Dark Slayers, which has been steadily improving week over week, and then you also have back squad, which doesn't seem like they've been, if anything, I mean, even with the add-ons of G Unit, have had any major improvement. I do think that they do have to kind of switch roles at this point. From every aspect. I mean, if whoever was leading before, we got to have some changes there, and restructuring. But yeah, I would imagine that Dark Slayers wins this by quite a bit because they're getting better each week.
If I'm TSS, I continue to try to get some cheeky ambushes in, and if those don't work, try to stay in one ball so you can push a team and just try to improve slightly every week. For Dark Slayers, if I was them, with Foster coming back and other chemistry things happening with half the guys pushing, half guys not pushing, I would definitely, my opinion, I would cut the support classes and just focus on, okay, let's push. Let's get everybody on the same page and we're pushing these guys all match. That way we can practice that, because you're going to have to do that against the better squads in the playoffs. Like, I understand Chucky's going to play Ranger, Tyrael's going to play whatever support class he wants, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's just better cut down the supports, practice pushing, so half the roster isn't in the back. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree at all. I do think, in concurrence with what you just said, Gift, I think they need to figure out the medic thing. Either they need to have better. I mean, it was two different problems. Metal had too many deaths. Abath was in the wrong place too often. And so I don't take a position on what needs to change there, if anything needs to change. But it is interesting to have the X5 option sitting there, who did play pretty well. I think that Metal and Abath have to step up the game. That's one. I think Chucky has to be more involved on the front line, and the line has to be clearer for the team. And I agree exactly that Dark Slayers have to be more aggressive. They have to take it to this team. Don't relent, because you're practicing that for when you have an opportunity against a better squad. When you get a better squad on the ropes, you don't want to give them time to retreat behind a rock and fall and not lose those deaths. So in this game, practice chasing them and mopping it up really quickly. If you can do that, then hopefully it translates up next week, and this is more of a practice than a bye week overall. Let's go to, we got a couple topics. I know Mecca has a mailbag question I'm going to ask him here in a minute, but let me start with this. Savander has entered the arena. Not to glaze the man, but easily one of the best players and sharpest leaders in the history of the game has now joined the ranks of the Jersey Boys. Question for the panel. As Jersey Boys were already sitting firmly in the number one spot, does this addition lock up a championship ring?
I don't think it locks up a championship ring. I mean, I still think Birds and Sparta are almost equal on paper. I mean, obviously, Sov gives you a huge advantage, but if it's still Pister leading and just Sov side leading, I still think that everybody has a chance. I mean, Sov literally led a team of all-stars 2 years ago and lost to, or 2 seasons ago and lost to Cats. So I mean, I don't think it's just like a foregone conclusion like everybody thinks. I mean, I think that roster was probably better than Jersey Boys, and they still lost, or we still lost, I should say. I was on that team. So I don't think anything's for sure. Obviously, it depends on the map, depends on who's showing, a couple different things, depends on who they're playing. But I mean, obviously, it gives them a huge, huge chance, and I think they're now the favorites. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, no.
Yeah, I would say that Soft joining is definitively a great add-on. By far, probably the best player that we've seen the last gazillion seasons. But with that being said, yeah, I would say that we're not going to probably start Sov unless, of course, we're missing some of the core players, which really means that it's still going to be generally the same team. I don't think Pister or anybody else wants to, have Sov join and, do Sov things, which is basically just getting a Sov ring, right? But yeah, it's great to have him either way.
Yeah, it's a huge pickup for Jersey Boys. Sov is not only one of the top killers in the game, but he's by far the best leader in the game. Again, is Pitzer going to hand over the reins and have Sov lead? I'm not sure. Sov is super vocal, so it's a massive pickup. Suggesting that Sov is going to sit for somebody else that's been all season is ridiculous. If he shows he's going to play, you got to bench somebody. Another thing too is Ninja ever going to show for Jersey Boys? Because Ninja's another phenomenal player. Like Jersey Boys could be really, really good if Ninja showed. But if Saab doesn't show, then it's still going to be Jersey Boys, I think, not winning. But if Saab does show and plays out, I wouldn't put him as the favorites, but it's very close for sure.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Saab kicks it up a huge notch. In particular, I actually think it's better for them if Pister continues doing what he's doing really well and works Saab into the roster. Just let him take one of those spots. Saab is, at whatever position he plays, he is in the top three. Easy. If it's Marine, if it's Medic, if it's Ripper, if it's Grenadier, I don't care. He's going to be really good at whatever he does. I think having him as a Marine, though, or as an AT is real scary. Particularly if he's just working into the roster. Or you could, I mean, Medic is a possibility if you wanted to give Havoc a chance to switch over to Marine or something. You've got so many options, and maybe that's the best thing that it gives you. It gives you a plethora of options. There's just so many things you can do with that. So, does it give them the championship? I don't know. I still think that Birds roster is one to contend with anybody. As Mecca alluded to, Warhawks winning, I think, the championship, it's definitely possible for Saab to be beaten, but it makes Jersey Boys a whole lot stronger. Give them a +5. And I think Jersey Boys now probably becomes in competition for favorites for sure. So, mailbag, or we don't have a mailbag this week, but Mecca, why don't you go ahead and ask your question? Let's do it that way.
Yeah, so the question actually you kind of touched on it earlier was about the Ranger class in general. With the Ranger class being added and everybody being hyped about it in the preseason, do we think it still deserves that hype? And how come only 2 players have played it all season?
I think people are struggling to find where it fits and how it fits because it is so different from the sniper. Mecca and I were talking about in the broadcast about how it only does 40 HP damage, and you just struggle to find what it's good at. I do like the MP5, but you were talking about you can allude on the reload time a little bit if you want to, but there are issues right now with the functionality of the class a little bit. I do think once people play it more and figure out how to play it, I think it does have a space. I think maybe the damage needs to go up. I think the damage may need to go up to at least 45, maybe 50. And at that point, do you just have a sniper? Maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
That's an interesting question in and of itself. I think that's something for people to talk about in the off season. But for right now, I think that right now for Darkslayers in particular, it's a negative. I think Chucky would be overall better as a Marine. For some of the other squads, backs or somebody like that, I don't know. Would it be any different? I don't know. I think there's a team that could use it. We just don't have a lot of people that are wanting to play sniper right now. And you really do have to hit a huge percent of these shots to make it viable and efficient. So, Chucky's doing a really good job of hitting the right ones. It's just his team isn't there to finish them. And I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, but right now I wouldn't be playing it.
That's where I'm at too. I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. I think Chucky's a really good ranger. I just think the class sucks. I think it was a noble effort to try to replace sniper. I just don't think it does. I mean, the medium range is okay. The MP5's good, but it does 14, but it only shoots 20. And then the reload is not independent, so it just takes forever. If you shoot your MP5 and then shoot a nade, shoot your long rifle, throw a throwing knife, your MP5 will not start to reload until you're done with all of those. It's just not a good class. It wasn't designed well. It was good in preseason when people weren't really taking it seriously on different maps. I thought it might be good on Bombs map. You saw it a few times, but I think Chucky, I think it was an overall negative. I think the meds had to fall back and heal him, and taking 40 damage is essentially just taking like 2.5 ARs. So it's really like not that game changing. Is it nice to be able to maybe snipe a med and get a pick? Yeah, but you don't see that happen either. And I think we have a lot of smart players in this league, and I think when you don't see any of the top tier of Marines playing a class, I think it's pretty obvious it sucks, because you see people playing demo, you see people playing other classes like that and exploiting them, AT even. But when you don't see the better players exploit a class, I think that's all the evidence you need to know that the class sucks.
Yeah, the top squads are going to be aggressive and push, and Ranger class isn't designed to do that. Or same with the sniper class. It definitely does not fit my squad's playstyle. We would never use it unless it was versus TSS. It never crossed my mind to ever use a Ranger by any means. So the risk reward is too drastic. If you're missing those snipes that only do 40 hit points anyway, what's the point even having the class in there? You're basically playing down a player. So we'd never have put any thought into using the class at all this season.
And so that was kind of my thought about why you might raise the damage, not to the 60 or something like an actual sniper, but just enough to where, like, if you get hit, it justifies, like, you took 3 or 4 AR bullets, And if it just the same way as if you stepped into a stream and took that, you wouldn't want to take that, particularly if you're a medic. That could be super dangerous in the middle of a battle. You could maybe turn it I think the class will work well when he's picking people off mid-fight who are already in the fight. You know what I mean? Who've taken a couple bullets here and there, and then he's the finisher. I think that's what the Ranger class is kind of designed to do. And right now, I think maybe 40 damage is just too low.
Yeah, it's either that or increasing the MP5 clip. I do think, though, that close range, that class is definitely up there. I think it might be the second strongest class, close up, which would mean that smaller maps, right, like MP's map, that class could have some potential there. But yeah, the only thing I don't like is that sniper position. Like, if they actually increase the sniper shot that they have, it would actually could be overpowered. So it would definitely have to go through a bit of testing.
Yeah.
To see how that goes.
Kind of incremental change. I agree. Maybe 45 would be a good starting. I think as soon as you hit that point where he starts getting kills mid-battle, that's where you stop it, right there. You don't need to go any higher, but you don't want to turn it into an actual sniper. That's not the goal. But that's my thought anyway. Anybody else on that topic, or are we good to close? All right. Well, mailbag questions. We didn't have a lot of them this week. If you want me to ask them on the show, you got to send them to me. Send your questions as a private message to me anytime if you'd like, and I will keep them anonymous. that will do it for USL Live and for the Season 25 Week 4 preview show. You can play Infantry for free. Download the game right now on Steam. Just type Free Infantry in the search bar or visit freeinfantry.com. If you're interested in league play, check out uslzone.com. You can sign up there on site where you can view rosters, schedules, and forums. Be sure to check out all our available videos on the Infantry Online YouTube page, built and maintained by military police. Feel free to relive the nostalgia anytime you want by going back to watch play from past seasons. I'd like to thank my co-host for today. That'd be Mecca, Splittah, The Gift. Thank you to our executive producer, Military Police. This has been Romulocks, and you've been listening to USL Live.